presentation is an introduction to Integrated Lake Basin Management, ILBM, for managing lakes for their sustainable use. Today we'll discuss the unique features of lakes that distinguish them from other freshwater systems, the life-supporting goods and services they provide to humanity, and the use of integrated lake basin management to ensure sustainable use. A fact worth noting is that only about 1% of the fresh water on the surface of our planet is in liquid form, and the vast majority of this quantity, more than 90%, is contained in lakes, wetlands, and other standing bodies of water, otherwise known as lentic water systems. Thus, lakes are very important freshwater resources for maintaining human health and well-being and for supporting socioeconomic development. Lakes are also habitats for a wide variety of important flora and fauna. The overriding question is, how can we best manage these critical resources now and over the long term? So what distinguishes lakes as well as wetlands and other bodies of standing water from flowing water systems like rivers and streams? First, an integrating nature for all inputs. Lakes receive pressures as a result of human activities from many directions, including from upstream, downstream, above, like atmospheric deposition, and below, like lake bottom sediments. These eventually come together and collectively mix and interact, and some pressures may even magnify other pressures, meaning that lake issues are essentially inseparable because it is virtually impossible to treat only part of a lake. A long water retention time. This refers to the average time water spends in a lake. It means the impacts of the stresses are gradual and incremental. They are often unnoticed until they become lake-wide problems. This also means both the problems and solutions can take a long time to become evident. Complex response dynamics. The physical, chemical, and biological processes are complex within a lake, with everything essentially affecting everything else, and often resulting in unpredictable and uncontrollable responses. These unique features must be included when developing lake management strategies that are integrated, holistic, and ensure sustainable use. Now, what are the life-supporting resource values and ecosystem services that lakes and other lentic water systems provide? First is resource provisioning services. These are the products and services humans obtain from lakes and other lentic water systems. They are typically considered in monetary terms. For example, water for drinking, growing crops, and livestock. Regulating services are the benefits derived from nature's regulation of the lake ecosystem processes. For example, flood and drought mitigation, water filtration and purification, aquatic habitats. Cultural services are the non-material and intrinsic benefits lakes provide to humans. Think aesthetics, religious and historical significance, educational resources. And finally, supporting services. These are nature's underlying services that are needed to produce all the other ecosystem services. For example, geological and physical features, nutrient cycling, soil formation, habitat creation. Because of their economic importance, humans tend to focus on the resource provisioning services, often forgetting about the other three services because they're not usually considered in economic terms. As a result, the resource provisioning services can easily be overexploited, leading to the loss of the important regulating services. And in turn, the continuing loss of the regulating services can ultimately result in the loss of both the resource provisioning and cultural services, and even the supporting services over time. A lake, therefore, can become completely degraded as a result of human activities. Excessive water withdrawals, pollution, eutrophication, sedimentation, introduction of exotic species. This means that without the timely conservation of lakes, their life-supporting ecosystem services may disappear. This highlights the necessity of achieving a sustainable balance between the ecosystem services, particularly the resource provisioning and regulating services, which will also maintain the cultural services, and all this within the context of the supporting services. Determining the desired level of this balance and how best to achieve it is a critical lake management goal and one that remains elusive for many lakes. So what is integrated lake basin management, and how can it be used to manage lakes in a sustainable manner? It is important to emphasize that lake basin management is not a project or a single activity. Rather, it is a process that must continue over time in a gradual and holistic manner, focusing on improving lake basin governance. Its conceptual framework incorporates 6 governance elements referred to as governance pillars. Policies, basically the rules of the game, including regulations, laws, ordinances, all these with strong implementation and commitment. Flexible and collaborative institutions to carry out and enforce these rules of the game. Broad participation of all relevant stakeholders in developing lake management plans. The best available knowledge, including both scientific studies and traditional knowledge, for informed decision-making. Consideration of appropriate technologies to facilitate achievement of lake management goals, including structural components like municipal treatment plants and dams, and non-structural components, education, economic incentives, and behavioral changes. And finally, sufficient and sustained financial resources. Successful lake basin management requires continuous evaluation of the effectiveness of these 6 governance pillars within the context of the previously noted unique features of lakes and continuous consideration of good management practices that involve software, policies, institutions, and knowledge, hardware, dams, waste treatment plants, and other water infrastructure, and hardware, cultural beliefs and societal values, and also achieving a good balance between the 4 categories of ecosystem services, again, all with the goal of ensuring sustainable ecosystem services. Improving basin governance must also be appropriately synchronized in the general planning process. This is referred to as the ILBM platform process. 2 additional distinct features of the ILBM platform process are that it is a bottom-up stakeholder-driven approach meant to ensure ownership of the management process. It focuses on on-the-ground governance improvements to facilitate immediate and tangible benefits accruing to lake stakeholders at the local level. A logical sequence in developing lake basin management plans includes developing a management goal, identifying options and alternatives to achieve the goal, selecting appropriate implementation strategy, implementing the strategy with sufficient financial and political resources, and evaluating and refining the plan as challenges and needs change over time. This process can be repeated cyclically as needed to achieve management goals. Ideally, all stakeholders want all 6 governance pillars to be intact and functioning well. However, the reality is that at least some governance pillars may not be sufficient to achieve sustainable management goals for a given lake. For example, inadequate finances, poor participation, institutional fragmentation, or insufficient information and data. At the same time, addressing inadequacies in the 6 lake management governance pillars must occur gradually and incrementally, and they can take many years to achieve for a given lake. The participation of all relevant stakeholders is important to ensure their ownership of both the problems and the solutions. In summary, achieving sustainable lake management over time is typically a cyclical process consisting of 5 essential steps. The first is to assess the state of the lake and its basin. Next is to identify the problems and resources within the lake basin. Third is to develop the Lake Basin Management Plan. Fourth, evaluate progress toward achieving the management goal. And finally, continue implementing the management plan, recognizing that it may be a cyclical process. Monitoring and data collection is an essential component of each of these steps. Recall that consistency and sustainability of the ILBM process works best when planning and governance improvement happen together. There are a number of national level cases where ILBM platform processes have been implemented for a variety of lake basin situations. Although experiences vary from country to country because of their differing challenges and resources, they all highlight that ILBM can lead to successful lake basin management, and it is consistent with the ILBM platform conceptual framework. The need for gradual, continuous, and holistic improvement of basin governance, including sustained efforts for integration of institutional responsibilities, policy directions, stakeholder participation, scientific and traditional knowledge, technological possibilities, and funding prospects and constraints. In conclusion, it is important that we recognize and appreciate that we all live in basins with linked lentic and flowing water systems and their management challenges. ILBM provides a means of facilitating the ability of both humans and nature to thrive productively over the long term. Thank you, and we hope this presentation gives you an increased appreciation of the global and local importance of lakes. To learn more, please visit the International Lake Environment Committee website.